Welcome to Podnutz, the computer repair podcast, episode number 207. I am your host, Jeff Halash. I'm joined today by Ian Alexander and Garret Milster from RepairTech. How you doing, guys?
Good. How's it going, Jeff?
It's going excellent. So apparently, you guys are coming up with, or have come up with, something that's been in beta for a while, a new revision to a product that you've had for many years now. And it's going to be one of those products that is going to make your lives a little bit easier and also make a lot of the techs out there very happy with the things that you're going to be able to do with it. You want to talk about what that product actually is?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a product. It was our first product. So it's Tech Suite. It's the product that automates your computer repair process. And yeah, we spent the last, I don't know, how long has it been, Garrett? A year?
It's more like 9 months.
It's been a long time. Basically rewriting the whole thing from scratch. We used, it used to be written in VB6, which was kind of an archaic relic of the past. And now it is a modern programming language. We rebuilt the whole thing based on customer feedback. We had Connor do a whole research project to talk to customers and figure out all the things they wanted implemented. And the end result of that was us realizing that we had to rebuild the whole thing in order to do that. So we haven't released any updates for TechWaru in a really long time because we've been working on this new version, and it's been in beta, like you said, for a couple months, maybe a month and a half or something. And now it's finally out there as like a full 1.0 version, and it is awesome. And maybe, Garrett, if you want to talk about some of the differences, since you're the one that built it.
Sure. I mean, let's see. Like Ian already said, the older language is really holding us back from a performance perspective, from a almost like a feature set perspective. There was a lot of things that we wanted to do and that techs wanted us to do that we couldn't do because we were held back by basically the older technology. So not only is it faster and more stable all around, but it does a lot of the features that it did before better. Command line, just running automation, branding, web syncing, all of these things that TechWaru could do, Tech Suite does better. We have a lot of instantaneous web syncing now, so we can update tools whenever we want to. We can add new tools without requiring an update. We can fix bugs without requiring an update. There's a lot of cool little things we can do now for the techs as soon as we want to, basically. So there's just a lot of new technology in there. And not only is it at kind of the same point that TechWaru was, but now we are at a stepping stone where we can do a lot more cool stuff that we wanted to do in the first place.
Very cool. And I'll tell you, I was just telling Garrett before we got started that I actually used the product. It turned into 1.0, I guess, Friday night. And I actually used the product today I'm working on a customer's machine. And it's definitely, it's what I would call, when it popped up and it was going through this little update thing, it was very quick, very fast. But I looked at it and I go, my first thought was, that's pretty. And really, it was. You guys were able to take the logo that I already had on the website, and it puts it right in there and just makes it very beautiful. Nice background. Did anybody ever say, and I don't know if this happened or not, did anybody ever say the other product was just ugly?
I mean, we did, yeah. So we definitely, I mean, we know how good or how bad our products are. You know what I mean? We know it the best. So we complained about TechWaru all the time.
Okay.
We're probably the harshest critics.
Sure.
The old one, the problem was we were limited, like Garrett said, by the old technology we had, and we couldn't make it look like that.
Right.
There was no way for us to do that. So when we were redesigning this, we spent a really long time on the user experience before we ever built anything. And that's probably one of the biggest differences is with the original one, we made stuff and then we iterated on it, and it kind of got to this point where it was usable. But it certainly wasn't it wasn't fun to use. It didn't make you feel good, right? So this new one is a lot better. And I just wanted to elaborate on, because I think it's kind of cool from like a tech perspective on what Garret said about the web syncing stuff. So with the old technology, what we had to do, like let's say TDSS Killer or McAfee Stinger or some tool, any tool broke, whether that means the like tool got updated and then we have to put a new update in there, or something else just made it so we needed to change something. If we wanted to change the procedures, we wanted to remove a tool, every single one of those things would require us to release a new update to the whole software, which requires us to basically go through testing of every feature, even though we didn't change those features. It requires us to like send it out to people and say like, hey, like, can you test this for us? And so all of that takes a really long time. There's a huge amount of lag time. Now what we did is we took that source code that was originally in the Windows application and we put it on our web dashboard. So all the tool definitions and like everything that was previously in the Windows app is now up there, and we can change it whenever we want. So TechSuite itself, the Windows app, is just an engine now, and it just runs things that it's told to run from the online dashboard. And that makes it so we can add new tools in like 5 seconds without you having to even notice anything. You close the app, you open it back up, it doesn't even do an update, and you have a new tool. Likewise, we can change tools, we can change definitions of tools. So it's just it's more fun for us. It's a better product for you.
Awesome. So it's the difference between like Microsoft Front Page when people were making websites in the 90s and WordPress today, right?
Yeah, I'd say that's a pretty good analogy, actually. Like Front Page, you'd have to download a whole update to do anything different. And WordPress, yeah. I mean, it's actually it's more streamlined than WordPress, because with WordPress, in most cases, you have to actually click the update thing. We just do the whole thing for you, and you don't even notice.
Right. That's awesome. Anything that can be done in the background really helps us out, because I don't know about you, but as a technician, a lot of times I get to this point where it's like, I remember back in the day having a USB stick, sticking it in a computer and doing the update on all the products that I use. And oh, what a pain that was. So you know what happened most of the time? Yeah, the updates never got done. It's the definitions on that's 2 months old. It's still good enough. I'll still clean this machine up, no problem.
Right.
Well, and one thing that we wanted a lot for the new TechSuite was not just having those definitions or all those little bug things to get fixed quicker and easier, but also it's difficult when people get on different versions. So you might have noticed, like you described your experience earlier, we don't actually give you an option to update now. It just kind of happens quickly and silently, because we're actually because all that stuff, like Ian said, is on the web. The only thing you update now is the executable, and updating an executable takes like 5 seconds.
Right.
So
it's quick.
We just do it silently, we do it quickly during that little splash screen, and then it keeps everybody on the same version at the same time, and it makes it easier for us to streamline the same experience for everybody, basically.
So if you have somebody that says, hey, I'm having a problem with your product, and they're 2 or 3 versions back, you're not having to try to figure out, oh, wait, which version are you on? What's not working? Hey, did you update it? You know, the normal things that we go through as far as support and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
Okay. Very cool. Awesome. Now, I was going through some of the different things and just trying the different preset tools out. Now, how did you guys come up with those preset tools as far as like internet fixes? You've got malware removal, and I can't remember. I think there's 5 main ones, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we have those procedures that we give you by default, essentially, right? I would say the way that we come up with those things is, one, we have pretty good analytics on what tools people are running.
Okay.
So if you run a tool, we know, like, it's not necessarily specific to you, but we know like 300 times last week people ran TDSS Killer or something like that. I just made that number up, but like we know those statistics. So we can say these are the tools that people trust for their malware removal. Okay. We also have statistics on like what types of apps people are adding as their own like custom apps. So we can see demand on, a lot of people are adding, for example, like MCSoft anti-malware, right? Right. So we know that maybe like, oh, maybe we should go talk to MCSoft about that, right? That kind of thing, and see if we can just get that out as a default tool. So once we have a list of tools that we know people run, then it's about talking to the customer and saying like, okay, what services do you offer? Well, you offer a malware removal service. We offer a cleanup / tune-up service, like a new computer setup. These different types of services, or just like a general diagnostic. And then if we can just build you kind of like pre-built procedures for doing those things, so that when you start using TechSuite, you don't have to spend all this time creating them. You just run the ones we have, and then you understand what you like and what you don't like, and you can modify it from there.
That's very cool. Now, let me ask you this, because obviously, so run me through this again, because I'm trying to remember the old tool. It was TechSuite was the actual, was that both TechWaru and the pre-boot
Right.
system you had?
So your confusion is a common motif, and so we recognize that, and that's kind of why Garrett and I have been skirting around the use of certain words, because we just changed everything with this new release.
Okay.
Before it was TechSuite was the product, which included 3 different things. It included TechWaru, which was the Windows app. It included TechUSB, which was the bootable utility, and included TechPortal, which was the online dashboard. So you got all 3 of those things, and that was called TechSuite. That was super confusing. People would say like TechWaru USB. They would call the whole thing TechWaru. They would call it like USB Tech, USB Waru. Like, it was ridiculous how many things people could come up with. But that was our fault at the end of the day for creating this super confusing schema. But we redesigned everything, not redesigned, we renamed everything. So now it's all just TechSuite, and you have the TechSuite Windows app, you have the TechSuite bootable utility, and you have the TechSuite online dashboard. So there's only one name, it's TechSuite, and that's it.
Okay. So now as far as now, obviously before you had to download both separately. You had TechUSB, and then you had the TechWaru, and you could combine them together on one USB stick. Is everything kind of built in together, or is it still kind of separated like that a little bit?
So it's the same as it was before, and basically the way that works is you can have one or the other or both. So okay. You can use, because in not all cases are you going to want the USB drive. Just as an example, if you're in a remote session, you're just going to want the Windows executable, right?
Right. Yep.
So basically what you can do is you can either download the Windows executable, or you can download an application that helps you create the bootable utility. We call it the creator. Okay. And when you create the bootable utility, you can just like check a box and it'll download the Windows app as well.
Okay, great. Okay, so it is kind of combined if you want it, but you can also do it separately depending on the situation you have.
Exactly.
Very cool. So was there a lot of changes to some of the software that you guys had built into this new TechSuite as far as what people were using? Had stuff changed in the last few years that you were seeing?
Yeah, I'll answer that question real quick, and then I'm going to pass on some details to Garrett. But yeah, so one of the biggest things that we got from people as far as feedback on the old Windows application was that there were too many screens popping up, and there were too many and we were automating things in all kinds of different ways, like command line, auto IT scripts, batch scripts, like just all kinds of different ways of automating stuff. And so it felt more like a wrapper, right, for different applications that we were using, as opposed to one unified experience where it was all contained within the app. And so with this new TechSuite, that was one of the biggest things we wanted to change, was we wanted to make the user experience feel very contained. And that required us to have deeper integrations with the antivirus companies and the other applications that we were working with within TechSuite. So we removed a ton of stuff that was in it before that people weren't using in order to get it to be more simple. And then we partnered with companies to have deeper integrations. So it's all built into the application itself. You don't see any pop-ups. You don't see any other windows. And we created a more intelligent way of going through the process of running these apps. So maybe, Garrett, if you want to talk about how it's actually different, the way we're working with these things regarding like DLLs Sure. or whatever.
So I would say probably the most significant change in TechSuite versus TechWaru is that a lot of tools that we provided in TechWaru were actually like physically a part of TechWaru's application. And we ended up taking a lot of those, and when we rewrote them in the new language, we made them a separate application. And what that let us do is if we ever needed to change that, right, like Ian was saying before, that would require an update to the whole application. Whereas now, if we need to update this one create restore point tool, well, we can update that tool, update the tool dashboard on our admin kind of overview, and then it doesn't require any change on the application side. And that's true for pretty much every tool. And so some tools required special interaction because they put their logs in weird places, or they need to kind of modify the registry first, or random little things that a tool might require. Instead of building that into the app, which is what it was in TechWaru, we just make it its own app, and now everything's separate. So like Ian said, it's kind of more of an engine now, and we just make a special point to make every tool its own tool. And then that way we kind of just say, here's all your tools, TechSuite, and it doesn't really know the difference. It just says, oh, I'm running tools.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then another thing we do is we have one process that one of the problems with TechWaru was different things were run different ways. So certain tools were run with this thing, and custom apps were run with this thing, and these tools were run with this thing. And so it made it kind of hard to keep track of everything. Whereas in TechSuite, there's just a thing called tool, and custom apps are tools, and the tools that we make are tools, and the third-party tools are tools. And TechSuite goes, okay, I'm going to start it. I know what process ID it is, so if you want to stop it or skip it, it's instantaneous. I know where its reports are. I know all these things, and they're all the same. So it's a very unified thing for the application. And so we can do a lot. Like skip was probably one of the most requested features of TechWaru that I just couldn't do because I didn't always know what the application process was, because it was all over the place. But now it's, if you want to skip it, you hit skip and it kills it and it moves on. And it's just because it's all simplified.
Okay. So when you actually take the executable, because I know nothing of how this stuff actually works, just to be perfectly blunt and honest. So even though I use this stuff and I am a technician, at least I play one on TV. With that, when you download that executable and you're running it, and it needs to get the latest, greatest, let's just say TDSS killer, it's automatically downloading that stuff in the background, or where's that pulling from?
It depends on the application. Sometimes it can be, like for instance, some URLs that whenever they update, they use the same URL over and over again. So if we're using that URL for the application URL, then you'll just get the newest one whenever you download it. Sometimes when they update tools to their specific websites, they'll update the link every time. And so that's more on us to make sure that we're keeping track of the latest version. And we'll just update that on the tool dashboard, our tool dashboard, and then you'll get the newest version that way. And that's actually, like Ian was saying earlier, a big deal for us, because before, if we wanted to update the URL for McAfee Stinger, right, that required a config file update so that your config file knew where to get McAfee Stinger from. Whereas now it's 3 clicks on the web for us, and then you guys have the newest URL. So if someone, and we get like people our customers are talkative, and if they see something's out of date, they'll send us a ticket and they'll be like, hey, I'm getting outdated version of McAfee Stinger. We go see there's a new one, and we update it in 10 seconds, and now the problem's solved. So that's a nice bonus to the update.
Now, the ones that are changing the URLs, how often does that normally happen on average?
It really depends on the tool. There are some people, like not all of these tools are in active development. So sometimes there's ones that we're almost never worried about. Also, some of these tools update themselves. I forgot to put in that option, but like the malware tools, a lot of times they just update themselves, so they don't really need a new link. There are only a few of the tools these days are actually still in like active development. So if they are, we have to be a little more on top of it, but it's not very common.
Okay. So when you're downloading a tool and it's a malware removal tool, it's basically, for the most part nowadays, it's going to basically download the definitions it needs and just run, unless they rebuilt or updated that engine that they're using to run their tool, right?
Yeah, unless they do something that messes with our definition, you won't even notice.
Gotcha. No, it's very cool. I mean, it seems very seamless. Like you said, it's happening in the background. It's just running. I don't know exactly how to explain it, except it does seem, like you said, a more seamless experience between the two. Because a lot of times, you're right with the pop-ups. I didn't even realize it until you guys said it, that with the old Tekwaru, you had all these pop-ups popping all over the place, and they pop open, and sometimes they close, and then one would sit there, and then maybe another one would pop over the top of it, and it was like, I just thought that was normal, and I'm like, hey, it's just whatever, it's working, right? And so now I'm not even realizing all the stuff that's happening until I actually go in and look at the reports and say, oh, it caught 38 pieces of malware, 42 pups or whatever I'm looking at. So it just dawned on me. I'm like, yeah, that's a very nice experience, actually.
Well, and I will give it a tribute to Ian. That was like Ian's dream when we were brainstorming this about a year ago, was that he wanted it to be completely automated, not kind of automated, but completely automated. Because one of our I guess our selling points, our taglines for Tekwaru was that you should click it and go look at another computer or do whatever. And we found that because of those pop-ups or things maybe going wrong sometimes, that people wouldn't. So the goal now is for you to click it and walk away and go do another thing that makes you money and come back and take a look at it when it's done.
Very nice. And the other thing too is I love the way that you can get an email once that tool is done running. You get an email, and I can actually check that on my other computer. I don't have to open up the web page or anything on there to check it through their computer, which still might be messed up. I can sit down at my bench computer or my regular production machine, click on the email, click on the link, go and look at it. Oh yeah, it's pretty messed up. Okay, yeah, we need to go ahead and run this tool and get that done and get that taken care of. So that's a very nice feature. And again, very, very seamless. So.
Well, and there's another, there's a cool kind of a quiet new thing to that, which is a big part of Tekwaru, was that you got your report at the end. So it did everything, and then at the end, it built the report, and you could view it locally, or you would see it on the dashboard, and you would get that email or whatever. Now, we actually upload the report for each tool as they finish. So you can be monitoring the progress of what's going on from your TechSuite dashboard. We have the bench where you can see all your current runs. You can, if maybe it's halfway done after an hour or something like that, you could see all the reports for what it's run so far as it's going. And that's kind of cool. So you can just be monitoring it as you go instead of you don't even have to wait for it to finish at this point. You can just see it.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, you just blew my mind, because I was thinking, I've got another computer sitting here. I go, yeah, I could have the dashboard up. And everybody always talks about monitoring dashboards, and we talk about it. We don't always think about it. But I could have that thing up while I'm sitting here, playing my video games, watching a movie, whatever. And I can go, oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that looks good. Now, I will say this, and I know this is probably something that's already been said 100 times, but I just figured I'd bring it out while we're on the live show, is that sometimes when I'm looking through these reports, I'm like, oh, my God, that's huge. And it's like half the time, even as smart as I am, I really don't know what I'm looking at half the time. I'm like going, and so I'm sitting here scrolling through. There's a lot of information. Is there any, and I know Ian's talked about this before, is there any way that you guys are going to take the reports from maybe some of the different tools and kind of roll them in with like the high hitters of what's important?
I feel like you're like leading us off to the question. I don't know if you know about this. It's kind of suspicious to me. One of the big things we added. Oh, there's a fire engine going by.
I was going to say, you're not getting taken away, are you?
No, not yet. So one of the big things that we added was what we call report parsing. And that sentiment that you just expressed was something that many techs talked about. They're like, I don't know. It's not necessarily I don't know. It's I don't have the time to read through this 900 line log.
Right.
And so in TechWaru, a lot of the time, well, not a lot of time, every time, what we were doing was pulling these logs and putting them in the reports for you, right? Which was already helpful because you didn't necessarily have those logs saved anywhere. So you couldn't review them or anything. But it wasn't like adding value on top of that. And it wasn't making it easier for you as a tech to do your job by reading those logs. So what we did this time was we have what we call report parsing, where we go and we look at these logs and we have, 100 of these examples of the same log from the same tool. And we say, okay, this is what it looks like when it succeeds. This is what it looks like when it fails. This is what it looks like when it has an error. And we parse the reports and pull out the information that's actually necessary for you to know. And then we put that in a summary, and then below you can view the log if you want to. So a really good example of that might be when you want to run a cleanup tool. So you want to clean up Firefox, right? And you run that, it spits out everything that it removed, and it's 600 lines of log. And we just pull out, it removed 45 files and it cleared up 60 megabytes. And that is the only thing you see unless you want to see more. So that's one really cool thing. When you add that to all the tools, it's a really big difference because you're reading less, you're getting the summarized information. And then on top of that, on top of the ability to see that per tool, we also added the ability to see that from a high level for all the reports that you got. So coming back to the cleanup thing, let's say you ran 10 different cleanup tools and this one cleaned up 10 megabytes, this one cleaned up 20 megabytes and whatever, and they add up to 2 gigs. You can go and read how much each one cleaned up in that summarized report, but at the top of the report, you're also going to see in total, we cleaned up 2 gigs. And that's super cool because nowhere else, you can't do that in your normal computer repair process, right? Like in the malware removal example, we can run 6 different scanners and you can see how many in aggregate they found. And that's super cool because it's just this added level of intelligence that we've put in there.
That is awesome. And I'll tell you, one of the things that on our shows that people will talk about is there are still people out there that want to do a manual process. And I laugh when people actually say manual process because the thing that they're doing manually is downloading the application and pressing the scan button. And to me, that's semi-automated, right? And so what you guys have done, which is different, you have a tool that pulls all these different tools that we're using anyways, and you're putting it all together. We can set it up however we want, and we click one button, and it just runs through the tools. And it saves us time from, like you said, sitting there looking at the bench, looking at what's going on, trying to figure out what we're going to do for lunch, all these different things that we do on a regular basis. And so I think it's genius because you've taken a process that back in the day would take me a period. Now, this is not on keyboard time, but anywhere from 12 to 16 hours. And you've taken this process, and in most cases, in my opinion, it's usually an hour or less to get a machine cleaned up. That's just what I found with the tools that I use, and that work well for me. So it's good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think that people do talk about wanting to run things manually still. Some people express that. And I think that that is a result of not feeling confident in the alternatives, which is the automation, right? So they might have used our old TechWaru and felt like it was doing stuff that they didn't understand, or it wasn't doing things adequately, or they might have used one of our competitors' tools or something like that, or they might have written their own script. And I think that when you go 50% of the way and you kind of automate it, but it's not a really good system, and you're not getting the feedback that you feel you get when you do things manually, when you understand every single step, the confidence level just isn't as high. So even though people might save time, they're not willing to do that because they want to make sure the repair's done right. And so I think those people do want automation. They just also want confidence. And that's kind of why we tried to make this experience feel more legit, like just trying to make it feel more like we partnered with all these people to provide you a really good all-in-one tool rather than like hacking together a bunch of systems. Right. So I think that is why people express that, but hopefully the new product we just launched will negate that, and they'll come to the efficient side of things and wanna stop clicking next and finish and remove.
Yeah. Oh, boy, the day I could stop doing that. Oh no, I already stopped that a long time ago. It's just, it's not worth it, in my opinion. And it's, you know, even as a part-time tech, I only have so many hours in a day with all the different things that I do. And so anything that can automate the process, get me to where I need to be. Now, yeah, are there Windows things that I need to go in and tweak manually, maybe after things are done? Sometimes, depending on how bad the infections were. Sure, that stuff happens. And you still need to know how to do some of that. But if I can automate the, what I would call the dumb processes that are just going to run. And plus, I think you guys you've taken care of that with the reporting. It's showing you a report in the end of what it's ran, what it found, what's good, what's bad. I mean, you know, as long as it's on the report that said, hey, I ran XYZ tool and here's what it said, it's the same thing if I run it manually. So either you guys would have to take a lot of time to make stuff up, or it's actually doing its job and you're just pulling that reporting from the tool itself. Fair enough?
Yeah, and in a lot of cases, actually, you can't run some of this stuff manually.
Right.
Like, I'll just give you an example, Roadkiller, right? So like we have a partnership with Roadkiller, and the stuff that we're able to do through TechSuite, you can't do for free with Roadkiller.
Right.
You go download Roadkiller, you cannot do those things. This level of TechSuite now is like kind of a little bit past. You can't replicate a lot of these things by having like the free, you know, people will say like, oh, I don't want to pay for TechSuite. I can do this for free. It'll take me longer, but I can do it. And now that's not necessarily true, because we worked with these vendors far closer and got them to build things for us that are not necessarily accessible in the version that you can go download from their website. And when you add that up over multiple tools, you're actually getting a better computer repair process.
Right. I agree. And you hit the nail on the head. You said process. And now let me ask you this, and I haven't looked at it, so I'm guilty. I do run the tool, but you know, as busy as I am, I don't always get to it. Like I said, I just ran it today. And now, is it easy to set up a custom profile for basically I go in there, I'm able to pick the tools that I want to run. I go, here's the 10 things that I run, whether it be Windows tools or third-party tools or a combination thereof. Is that easier, in your opinion, than TechWaru was to set up?
Yeah, you want to talk about that?
Sure. Yeah, so I guess one of the fundamental user experience changes that we wanted to make in the new TechSuite was that we wanted the first thing you see to just be something that you load it up and you say, okay, I'm going to run this and go. So if you recall in TechWaru, the first page is actually like categories and tools, and then it loaded the first preset for you. So that was your default one. But it wasn't so much like, I'm going to click this and go. It's like, okay, now I got to find the thing I want to run, and maybe I'll edit it a little bit and then I'll run it. So one of the first things we wanted to do with TechSuite was the first page is just procedures that you can run. So it'll be 1 click or 2 clicks at the most, and you're running something. So that was like the first thought process. The second one was that we wanted building a procedure to be really easy and really easy to find. So we kind of had less space to work with in TechWire. It was more of a confined box. So we're always struggling to find like where to put certain buttons. We have more space and better user design in TechSuite. So it's really easy to just, you load it up, you see your procedures right there, and there's a big new button right at the top, and you can say, okay, I want to make a new one. And you can build it the way you want to build it. It's a somewhat similar experience to TechWire, just because there's not a whole lot of ways to pick categories and tools and add them to a list. That's kind of a straightforward process. But one of the really cool things that I like is that when you're done, you hit continue, I believe, and it gives you the option to save this procedure as a new procedure or just run it and forget it. So let's say I just wanted to do a quick diagnostic for this particular computer. All I really care about is the battery and the hard drive. You can just go, you can go straight to new procedure, battery, hard drive, run, don't save, and it takes you maybe 5 to 10 seconds at the most, and you can just walk away. So I really like the way that our new tech suite lets you just kind of either save something for the future or just set it and forget it. Basically, you can do a quick 1, 2, 3, and you're on your way. So that was a nice thing, I think.
Yeah, if I could add to that, you touched on another thing, Jeff, which was like, is it easy to add your own apps? And one of the coolest things about this new tech suite that we didn't have before is before you had like a wizard that allowed you to you walked through it and it allowed you to add an app. You had two choices. Either you could give it a URL for where to download the app, or you could browse locally for an app. And it was always better if you gave it a URL, because that way, if you save that custom app, you can take that instance of TechWire anywhere and it'll just download the app for you, right? Because it has a URL. But if you browse locally, then you had to like bring the executable with you everywhere. And so what we did, and that was very inconvenient, especially for apps that like don't necessarily have the same URL every time. So what we did with this one is you get the same wizard. It's a lot nicer and easier to use. But the main added feature in it is that now we automatically upload your executable and we host it for you. So you can add a custom app, browse locally for, say, some batch script that you wrote, and we'll upload it to our servers so that next time you open TechSuite, no matter where you are, whether you've run TechSuite before on that computer or not, your batch script is immediately available. And you just set it up once.
Wow. Okay. Wow. That very cool. So let me ask you, here's another question I have for you. As far as one of the things, and maybe it's something that I'm missing. So when I get done using, usually I grab I use, and I'm probably a little old school and I might be doing it wrong, so just let me know if I am. But on my USB stick, I'll usually have the folder with the tech suite on it. And I usually drag and drop that to the customer computer because, and there's a reason for it, I use a locked USB drive. Yes, I know. Just because I'm a little wary that I haven't seen a jumping virus in a long time, but hey, it could happen. And I would hate to infect a bunch of people's machines. So the initial drive that I use is a locked drive. So I just drag the file folder onto the computer instead of running it from the USB stick, which I know you can on an unlocked drive. My problem is I always have to remember to delete that set of tools, that folder, and then get rid of it out of their garbage can before I actually shut that computer down. Is there any way that if you guys thought about maybe making a way where you could actually, once the whole process is done and you basically quit, it deletes all that stuff?
Yeah, there's been, we had a feature like that in TechWire. We found that people didn't use it that often.
Oh, okay.
But
see, I'm weird. I know.
No, but actually, I really like the way you do that, actually, because it is, from a speed perspective, it's faster to run TechSuite from the person's computer than it is from a USB drive because of read-write speeds.
Right.
So that's actually a really good way to do it. One of the things that we can do is you can have like a universal password for TechSuite that you put on the app. And all you do is you go on the website and you like type in a password and you press enter. And then every time you try to open TechSuite, it'll ask you for that password. So in that case, what you can do is you can actually leave it on the customer's computer, and next time you work on it, you can enter your password, but they won't be able to run it.
Okay.
So that's kind of like what we find most people end up doing in that scenario, because then it's like the best of both worlds, right?
That's a great idea. Yeah, that's if you can password protect that and just leave it on there for the next time you get the system. And obviously when you're running that executable, it's going to update and do all the things it needs to do, download the proper programs and just be able to run. Okay.
Right, because then the customer goes home, they have another problem, or whatever, and or a month later they ask you to go clean up their computer. You remote in, your tools are already there.
And that would save a lot of time, because I don't know, it doesn't matter what remote software that you use. They all, when you're talking from point A to point B, trying to get any type of tool from my computer to the customer computer, it's a lot of times easier just to go to the website and download whatever it is I'm downloading while I'm remoted into their computer using their browser. So it's that much faster. But yeah, very cool. What other things are going on in that the people need to know about, that are like, obviously you guys have you've made a very comprehensive tool that you can adjust on the fly, which I think is what you wanted. I think it's great for the customers, because now you get feedback and boom, you can move things around and do what you need to do. What other things do you guys see that people are using or getting out of it that's working for them now?
I think one of the things that we're really excited about is that now that we have this framework that just works really well, we can add to it. So we're really looking for features that people need. I mean, you mentioned, for example, like, oh, hey, I have all these things and it's great that we have automation, but afterwards, if the virus removal is really bad, I want to tweak these little things, right?
Right.
So like, I really want to know what those little things are. Because now that we have this system that's super good at automating stuff to a level that's so much higher than what we had before, now it's really easy for us to add stuff like that.
Okay.
And just as an example, we have a customer who told me that he wanted to write a script that ran SFC scan now and then ran the DISM command to repair the file system.
Right. Yep.
And he had this like whole process for doing it. And I was like, I've never seen anyone with this exact way of doing it. I really like the way you're doing it. And so he gave me his batch script and I said, okay, like I'm going to take this, I'm going to turn it into a tool. Is that okay? And he was like, yes. So I turned it into a much more like fancy thing that's now built into TechSuite. And it's a tool that will fix your file system, right? And we didn't have anything like that before, but it only took me one day. And it's a really solid tool. So I want to know what those things are, Jeff. And that's really exciting possibility to me, because now, but it was such a pain to add things in the old system. And now it's so seamless and easy for us and easy for you that it's an exciting proposition to be able to build more stuff.
Awesome. No, I like that. Now, let me ask you something else too that we were talking about, I think before the show, but you went from, you had one main preset, which I think back in the day might have run something like 38 different tools or something versus Windows, third-party tools. And then you typed it down a little bit and got it maybe down to, I don't know, 33 or something like that. Now, I noticed in the new TechSuite, you guys basically have 5 different presets that deal with different areas. But I noticed this when I was just running the tools and working with it a little bit just to see what it does, right? I noticed that some of these tools were redundant. So in other words, what I mean by that is maybe the malware removal tool had some of the same things that the Windows fixes, let's say, or even the internet fixes. So some of those different things were kind of the same. So it's not necessarily that you guys have the 5 presets and you would have to run all those presets, but is there any way, I guess, what was the reason for going from the one main where you run all these different tools to 5 different ones in the new TechSuite?
Yeah. So I mean, in the old one, we had a couple. We had comparable ones, but they were much more hidden. It wasn't like the tool. So the TechWaru was focused on tools, whereas this is focused on presets, or we call them procedures now, but it's the same thing.
Gotcha.
So the new tech suite is focused on like lists of tools, right? And essentially that are comparable to your services that you offer in your shop.
Okay.
And so that shift is also a shift from having a bunch of things to having an automated suite. And it's basically the same thing, right? So that's kind of why we decided to make that switch, because we really wanted it to be a tool where you could open it up and click a button and you were done. And go ahead.
I was going to say, it's definitely a mindset thing that we wanted. The reason for the overlapping is not so much that it's like, I'm going to run diagnostic, then network, then malware, but more like, I'm going to open up Tech Suite, and what do I want to do? I want to fix networking, or I want to do a malware repair, or I want to do a diagnostic thing. Not so much that you would do them all in a row or in any particular order, but that you had a specific action in mind when you started up Tech Suite. And then if you wanted to do something more specific, you would create your own procedure, and you would have procedures for any scenario. And then if you need to do something extremely custom, then you could make a new one for one-time use or save it for future use. So yeah, like Ian said, it was more about starting up and saying, I want to do this one thing with one click. I want to fix the networking on this machine. Go.
I guess I can see that too from a standpoint of some of these shops. Now, from my standpoint as a sole practitioner, single man in the van, whatever. My thing is, a lot of times when I get these machines, and if Internet Explorer is broken or the network connections are messed up, the first thing I do is I always go in and do a malware removal anyways. Just because it makes sense to, hey, let's, actually the first thing I do is a diagnostic. Let's check out the diagnostics. Is a hard drive okay? Hey, is this okay? And once I figure that out, then I'll go in to do the malware removal. And then if anything is broken after that, then I'll go back in, and if I got to do internet fixes or things like that. So I can see from a standpoint of, if somebody brings in a computer and they go, hey, we've got this won't connect to the internet, maybe I'm just going to hit the internet fixes. In my mindset, I've always wanted to do above and beyond. So I guess from my standpoint, I'll always do a malware removal, just maybe simplified, in order to make sure that machine is clean.
So I've been contemplating adding another procedure in there called like full computer repair. That is basically all of them just strung together.
Okay.
So that might be more something you're looking for. Is that right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. I've been thinking about that actually for the past couple of days, and it's like, yeah, we might as well do it. I can add it really easily. So,
well, I was telling Jeff that you could do that during this podcast right now if you wanted to, and be done before we were done.
Yeah, it's true. It would be very easy. Yeah. Also, something else you mentioned was that there's overlap between them. And there definitely is. A really good example might be like the malware removal procedure includes pretty much everything in the cleanup procedure.
Right. And I didn't realize that until I ran both of them, and I went, oh, wait a minute. I already did this.
And it's interesting because malware removal in particular, people have different methodologies, I guess. Some people like to run their cleanup tools before they do a malware removal, and some people like to do it after. And the difference is that your malware removal tools are going to pick up all the stupid cookies that aren't actually malware. That's how those malware tools like get you like more detections or whatever. Sure. It's just a cookie. It's not actually harmful. It's just, whatever. So personally, my thought on it is I like to do the cleanup first, because if you do the cleanup first, you're scanning less files, which means that your malware removal scans take less time.
Correct.
And I understand you're going to get less detections, but like really, if you really need to like beef up your detections just for your customer, like I think it's a bit silly is all. Like I get it. It makes you look good, but I would rather save 30 minutes than do that. So anyway, We do clean up stuff because it makes the malware removal stuff go faster, and then you don't have the cookies there, and you know the customer got malware anyway because of whatever websites they went to. So you just clean out the whole browser, and that's definitely something that we do in there. And then, you know, we include a bunch of the diagnostics tools too. Like, I want to make sure that, like, you don't have a bad hard drive, and that's actually not your problem. Because a lot of time people are like, I have malware, my computer's super slow, like this won't open. It's like, you have a bad hard drive. So we put in some precautions in there too.
Okay. No, that's fair enough. Yeah, and yeah, from my standpoint, you're right. I would like something that I could just run from, basically starting with the diagnostic, doing again, I didn't look at all the tools that are in there. I was just playing with it and just seeing what it does and looking at the reports afterwards, because something I want to do. But yeah, doing somewhat of a cleanup, the cache, cookies, all those different things where you can get rid of that stuff so that the malware and stuff is not actually going through and scanning that, then doing the malware removal, and then any of the Windows fixes after that. Or that's kind of, I guess that's kind of the order that I do things in.
Right.
Yeah, I would say one thing that we really wanted to do, just talking about how the procedures got made and all of like the tools and everything like that, was TechWire was kind of bloated in that sense, where we had a lot of tools. Some of them were very specific for very specific things, or older. Some were for a Vista problem or an XP problem, or just random things, and then just a lot of bloat in general. So the goal for the rewrite was basically to slim down our options to quality things that people want, and then make it as easy as possible for you to add your own procedures and your own custom apps. So like with custom apps, in the eyes of TechSuite, there is nothing different from a regular tool and a custom app, right? The TechSuite sees them the same way, it treats them the same way. And we like that because we have tools that we support and we'll write scripts for and we'll do interesting things for. But if you want this one tool and maybe we don't add it for a certain reason or whatever, you should be able to add it super easily, as quickly as you want, and have as many of them as you want. If you want to do something manually, you can add a tool with no command line parameters as a custom app, and you'll run it manually, right? If there's not something that we do for you, it should be completely doable for you to just add it into your repair process, right? So that was kind of what I really like about the rewrite, is that we kind of give you a quality, not slim per se, but a chosen selection of things, and then we let you do whatever you want in terms of adding things to it and making it your own.
Now, I'll be honest with you, and I haven't tried this in a while, and again, I'm an idiot, but the reality is I have tried, whether through Curating or different things like that, to download third-party tools that somebody hasn't already put together for me with URLs and stuff, and to be honest with you, I could never get them to work. So even when your tools came out with that, in other tools, I kind of went, yeah, whatever you got is what you got, because I'm not going to spend time. But I will definitely go back and look at the process of actually downloading another tool that I want to add to that and see what the process is to doing that, because it sounds like it's idiot proof. So that counts me in.
Yeah, I mean, making the user experience for that was one of, I would say, the trickier things from a development perspective, just because there's a lot of checks and balances, right? Making sure that you downloaded the file. Is it a zip file? If it's a zip file, you have to unzip it and tell me where the files are, and then did it download correctly? All of these sorts of, there's a lot of background stuff there that you have to keep track of to make sure that it works successfully, because I don't want to tell you it works successfully and then you go and run it and it doesn't work and you're like, why didn't it work?
Right.
So it's definitely a complex problem, but I think we did a good job with it.
Very cool. No, I'm excited with some of the features and stuff. Like you said, you guys have made this product that is, you can roll with the punches basically and adjust it, and it sounds like you can do everything that you need to do with it. So I think that's great, and I think that's going to help a lot of people out there. And plus, like I said from the beginning, it looks pretty. When I saw it pop up on the screen, I was like, oh, there's my logo. That's so pretty. And plus, you guys use a gray background, which was kind of cool because it didn't clash with my logo. Where blue might have. So I'm glad you guys did that specifically for me. Appreciate that.
That was
Yeah, one of the more fun things we did actually, this actually happened on launch day as a last minute addition. We added the ability to customize your colors on the online dashboard. So you can't do it in the Windows app or anything yet, but like the online dashboard itself, we have like 3 predefined color schemes that you can use. So whatever works best with your logo, or you can give us like custom hex values for each of the different pieces.
Sweet.
And so you can make it 100% custom. And we're selfishly like kind of excited just to see like what people do. Like are people gonna make like hot pink, like neon green or something, you know?
Oh, don't tempt me. Don't tempt me. No, that's cool. You know what? I didn't even realize that was there. Again, it was one of those things where I think I'm going to try to start using the portal a little bit more now that you explained to me, Garrett, that basically I can have it up on my secondary little Nook computer here, which has got a monitor above me, and I can have that running in the background while I'm running stuff on my bench behind me and beside me, and I can see exactly what's going on there. Because before it was kind of like, yeah, the reports pop up in there. It's cool, whatever. I can look at the link on the email and go from there. But I think if it's a tool by tool process and I can see what's happening, again, I think that goes back and answers the question about the automation and, hey, is it doing its job?
Yes.
Because at any point I can look at it. Whoa, wait, what just happened there?
Right.
And I've got that heads up before it goes through the whole process and maybe borks the whole computer.
Right. And you actually, in addition to what Garrett said about having partial reports as it's running, you still also have screenshots. So once a minute, you can see the screen on that computer while TechSuite's running.
See, I need to get more into that tool. There's so many things that I don't know. And, you know, part of our problem is technicians, and I'll say this for all technicians out there, is software is awesome and it sucks at the same time. And the reason I say that is because it's awesome because somebody smarter than us put it together and made it so that it was as easy for us to use. But there is still somewhat of a learning curve to learn exactly how your tool runs and what it's going to do and the things that you want to do with it for your personal process. So a lot of times we're lazy and we love the presets and it's like, hey, just give me the preset. I don't care what it does. Just let me press the button.
Right.
We just go to town.
Yeah. So I think that is definitely one of our major considerations when we were building TechSuite, because we watch people go through their trial, right? They like sign up for a trial of our software and we watch them use the features and we're like, okay, like I'll just throw this out there. People are 50% more likely to pay for TechSuite if they attend a training webinar because they actually know how to use the software and they get it, right? As opposed to like kind of downloading it and fiddling with it for a second and then getting distracted or something, which is I think what most people do. And so
Squirrel.
we give out these, yeah, exactly. We give out these free webinars twice a week where we do them and you can attend them and you can attend them as many times as you want. You can have all of your techs do it. And people love those things, but like, it's a struggle for us to try to, number one, make the app self-explanatory. So like, that's something we're really happy with the new one, because the old one certainly wasn't. The first one, like you downloaded it and you were able to run a procedure. Day one, it was like not a problem. You got it. You got the reports, right?
Right.
You may not have understood all the features, but at least you got started. Sorry, there's a plane going by. So it is a lot more self-explanatory, but nonetheless, like those free training webinars are really valuable because then we can like do Q&A with people. And so that's kind of how we combat the software sucks thing.
Well, we're doing things like Connor completely redid our documentation. It looks very pretty. It's on a easier to look at page, I think. And there's nice little videos that I wouldn't even say videos. They're more like clips. They're like 15 seconds each that just show you like a thing that you can do. And I think our documentation is vastly improved than it was in TechWaru, and it'll be easy to kind of jump on board and find out little quirks that you didn't know existed.
You know, and I'm guilty, and I will definitely make time. You said you do those webinars twice a week. Are they the same time every week, or?
Yeah, it's on Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Pacific and
Okay,
Thursdays at 4 p.m. Pacific.
perfect. Okay, so Thursdays. All right. So I definitely will get to one of those. And the information is in Tech Portal, correct?
Yeah, so you can go on our website and just go to the demos and webinars like page, and there's a sign up link there, or you can log into your online dashboard and there's a link there too.
Okay. I will definitely do that because I probably need to know a little bit more than what I know now. I'm just enough. I know just enough to be dangerous, and that's about all there is to that.
Yeah.
And it's cool because people get to ask whoever's, it's usually either Ian or Connor, you can ask them questions as they're going. And it's more than just kind of seeing a demo. You get to kind of interact with the person giving the webinar, right, and kind of gets data, like information that's specific to how you do things.
No, that's cool. Yeah, and I love, again, I love walking through that stuff and seeing the information so that I can figure out how I'm going to use it for me. So that makes perfect sense. And it's one of the things that as technicians is what we're guilty of. We don't take the hour that it takes to sit there and watch through something. And that probably should be almost I'll say this, I'm guilty of it. So don't do as I do as I say. That probably should be almost a prerequisite for when you are actually doing a trial of TechSuite. Go ahead and take the time and sign up for a webinar. Get the tool while it's fresh. Sign up, pay attention, figure out how you're going to use it in your business, and then go from there and figure out whether that is something that is going to be something that's going to work for you or not. Because again, we're all guilty of it where we take the tool and yeah, it looks cool. I don't know what I'm doing. I push a couple buttons. Yeah, it was fine. Next. And then we forget about it and then I don't know if that really helped me. Well, the reason it probably you thought it didn't help you is because you really don't understand how that tool works and how it can benefit you fully comparatively to, obviously getting that information.
Yeah, and I would say that you don't even really have to sign up for a trial to do those webinars. If you go to our website and you just go to the demos and webinars section, like you don't even have to log in. You can sign up for one of them. So
perfect.
You can do it before you even sign up, just to make sure that it's something you're interested in.
And you know what? I will definitely, if you could do me a favor and just send me a link for that particular page, and I will definitely add it in the show notes for this show. So we can send people right there. Cool. All right. Is there anything else that we need to cover on this tool? I mean, at first we were like, hey, a lot of times people will say, hey, we come on the show and I don't know exactly what we're going to talk about, but obviously you guys have so many new things going on, and I'm such a great host that I know to ask the right questions. And I'm so full of myself, but that's okay because it's my show. But is there anything that we need to cover that we haven't touched on yet?
I have one thing.
Okay.
One of the cool things we didn't actually really talk about in the new TechSuite is something that we call tool modes. So one thing in TechWaru was, let's say we wanted to run like a certain, let's say we had the cleanup tools, right? You have cleanup Firefox all, cleanup Firefox temporary files, cleanup Firefox cookies, right? And then you have each one, right, for every cleanup. Those are all different kind of like command line switch settings. And so each of those had to be their own tool for us to display them and run them. And so, and this kind of thing applies to all manner of tools. Malware tools have different kinds of scans. Network tools have different kinds of settings. So one thing that we added in TechSuite that kind of made this process a lot easier was modes, tool modes, where basically you have a tool like Cleanup Firefox, and Cleanup Firefox has a mode for each thing that it can do, right? It can clean up everything. You can say, I want to add temporary files, and then I'll pick a different mode and add that mode to the procedure as well. So I'll add Cleanup Firefox temporary files, Cleanup Firefox cookies, Cleanup Firefox history, and then you'll only have those three. But it kind of simplifies the tool list a little bit because we don't have to provide you a tool for each mode. We just give you the tool and you get to pick the mode. It solves one more problem for everybody, which was any of the malware tools that have multiple settings. In TechWaru, you had to pick that setting And then when you wanted to add it to a procedure, that if you want to say you wanted to do it twice, I wanted to do it at the beginning and I want to do it at the end. Maybe you're doing a scan just to see after I do all this stuff, is stuff still there? Well, whatever your setting was, like that's what you had to, that was what was in the preset, right? I'm going to add scan only. Well, then that's all you could add for that preset. Well, now with tool modes, you can add the same tool to a procedure as many times as you want, all with different modes selected. You could do scan only, then quarantine stuff, then scan only again, all in the same procedure because you pick the mode when you add it, and it makes it separate basically.
Oh, very cool. Wow.
Yeah. So people used to ask us all the time, like, I want to scan for malware but not remove it, and I want to provide that as a service, and then I want to have like a actual removal service. And the way that it worked was we had a settings page where you could only pick one setting per tool.
Okay.
Right? So you would have to like go and change the setting to scan only, run your tools, and then go in and change the setting again back to like remove, and then run it, right? So now you can, like Garret said, have multiple procedures that do different things with the same tools. It also reduces the number of tools that you see. So before we used to like advertise like 300 plus utilities, right? Like we used to say we had 300 applications in there, which we did, right? But now you don't see 300 applications. You see 50 applications, but those 50 applications can be configurable to do different things. So it's like much less like visually like confusing, overwhelming, right? Like people used to come, we used to watch people in like user studies or whatever, like go in and be like, I don't know what these tools do. There's too many of them. And it's just daunting for people. So now it's simple and more Zen-like because you can just kind of relax. It's like
and like everything else we've been talking about, we can change those on the fly. So if someone says this quick scan isn't working and we check it and maybe it's broken in the tool itself, we can say, okay, well, we'll just get rid of that mode for now and not let people use it. And we can click a button and then people won't be able to use that until it's fixed or something like that. All of these things are web synced basically.
Wow. That's product's great. I mean, what you guys have done and changed over to and improved on over the years has been phenomenal in my opinion. It's the same thing that people are using out there manually, but you've been able to pull it under one roof, except for, obviously like Ian was saying, there's tools out there that you guys have partnerships with that individuals aren't going to have those. And, that makes it that much nicer. But,
yeah. Anyway, we've talked about TechSuite a lot. What do you want to talk about, Jeff?
Well, I'll tell you what, we're actually at 1 hour and 6 minutes, I think, on this particular podcast, believe it or not. Wow. Can you believe that much time has gone by?
No.
Unbelievable.
No, I had my screen full screen, so I didn't even know what time it was.
We could talk about TechSuite for a while, I think.
Well, I'll tell you what, I would love to have you, and Ian, you know this, if you ever want to come back on, or Garret, you guys ever want to come on the live show, and just kind of interact with the group there, or we can come do another session and talk about whatever. Obviously, you guys, you're more than welcome. We can definitely set that up. But I think, because I have other things going on, I think we're going to go ahead and end off this particular episode, and we'll come back in a few months and see what else is going on. I know you guys are doing things with Kabuto. That's always something new's going on there. Get TechSuite. I will ask one last question, and I know we talked about this probably a year and a half ago, maybe even longer than that. Tech USB, is there any chances that that's getting an update, or is that kind of where it's at? That is
getting an update.
I don't know where it comes from. It's right there.
So, so right now, Tech USB is based on an operating system called Debian Knoppix. And Debian Knoppix has been great to us. The problem is it's not UEFI bootable, and the compatibility is not as good as we'd like it to be. So, you see conflicts there with like certain Dell computers because of their graphics card and it doesn't have the drivers or whatever. So for the last 6 months or whatever, we've been working on a new version of TechUSB, and it's going to go into beta hopefully in the next couple weeks. I don't know when, and Garrett will be mad at me if I give you anything too precise. And it's going to be really cool. It's going to be both BIOS and UEFI bootable. It's going to have way more compatibility. It's based on a newer operating system, so it's not Debian Knoppix anymore. And yeah, I mean, those are the big changes, and those are really the important changes, because nobody really asks us to build anything into TechUSB anymore. They just want it to work on more computers.
Right.
So that was what we wanted to accomplish, and having it be UEFI bootable is huge. So
awesome. Very cool. All right. So Ian, where can people find out more, where they can trial this tool, get webinar information, and all that good stuff?
Yeah, so you can check us out at RepairTechSolutions.com. I also sent Jeff the demos and webinars links, so he can put that in the show notes. If you guys want to attend a webinar, it's free. You don't even need an account. We do them twice a week, and we'll be happy to answer your questions.
Awesome. And Garrett, I appreciate you coming back on. I know last time we had a bigger roundtable, but I really like hearing what the Windows developer side actually brings to the table, and what it is you're doing in the background there. Because, you know, sometimes you might be one of those guys that they put back in the closet for a reason, but you've done a great job on this show today.
Thank you.
And folks, for those that don't know, we love to have fun on this show, and that's what we do. So if you're not doing tech and having fun, get out and do something else. Anyways, thank you guys for coming on the show, and definitely appreciate it. If anyone would like to feature your product or service, send an email to guest@podnutz.com. And I want to thank everyone for listening and subscribing to the show. We'll see you next time on Podnutz, the Computer Repair Podcast.